on Time Out of Mind, after it was done, Bob got sick, and he some kind of lung infection, and so he went into hospital, and so he was calling me really high on pills, and he he would ask request he was requesting like changes in the songs and stuff like that. It's to do some edits for him. So there was a song I think I called it "Doing All Right," and I think now that was called what's it called? Till something I can't remember what the name was. Um, but he asked me. He said, "Can you take the first verse and take the first verse and put it in the last verse? Take the last verse and put it in the first verse." And this is while I'm mastering the record, and so I do that. I make a cassette, run it over to his house, drop it off. He listens to it, and I go to mastering, and we put that in there. And then he calls. I drop off the mastering, and he goes, "No, it's not right." I goes, "Why don't you try taking the first verse and just getting rid of the first verse?" And so I did that edit and took it over to him. And so that was he went with that version. But I still he didn't like the sound of the mastering. So I was in there for a month almost mastering the record because I had made these cassettes. What were they called? Maxell XL2Ss. In those days, those were the hot.
That's a good one.
You could really pin those meters, and make it sound exciting. And so he had this cassette had been living with, and every time went from the mastering, he'd put the cassette in, put the CD in his box, and then he'd have his tape there. And so he goes, you know what? It sounds good at 7, but not at 9. Like, oh, what does that mean? And so I go back in, and we would run the whole record through like a lathe, through like a vinyl lathe to capture some kind of analog sound. And so drop off a cassette CD at his house, and he goes, "No, the cassette still sounds better." And I'm thinking, "Shit!" And we tried everything, and like all these different EQs and compression, and like he hated it all. And so I said, "That's it. I don't know what else to do, but I'm going to take the cassette deck into the mastering with me." It was a Tascam D30 or something like that, and so I put the cassette deck on the mastering desk, and guy Joe Gasworth who was mastering it. He goes, "What's that?" I go, "This is the sound." And we put in all his millions of dollars worth of gear. We couldn't get close to this cassette deck. So that whole record was mastered through a cassette deck.
Amazing.
And so that's why it sounds a little bit like how
High
it sounds.
definition.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got a real kind of, open, kind of beautiful sound.